Hello and welcome to Primary Teaching with Kyle. My name is Kyle and I'm a primary schools teacher. This is week 3 of my ECT 2.0 journey, and it's getting real now. We're getting right to the middle of it. We're just going to give you a quick little overview, but the main focus for this week is all about my first lesson observation. It was an impromptu lesson observation. I'd had a quick one last week on a guided reading, where it was a 10-15 minute thing. But this one was, it was meant to be a 10-15 thing. She told me she was going to be in for 10-15 minutes, and then she was in for a bit longer. But yeah, it's good because actually still haven't had any ECT training yet. So actually it's kind of good to kind of get started with an observation and kind of go through it, and then being able to go through, bits and bobs about the actual subject work, but then also the actual classroom management and behaviour management, etc., etc. Just a quick overview of the week, normal week in terms of my job share. The big difference though was that I got asked to do a extra day at my school and at my class on the Tuesday, because my co-teacher was away on a training course. So actually I taught all week apart from Wednesday morning this week with the bank holiday on the Monday. So that was quite nice really. I had the whole class for the whole week. I also did sports clubs that started at our school, and because of my background as football coach and PE teacher, I was asked by the PE lead to run a football club. So I did that on the Thursday, which is absolutely fine. I don't even need to think about what I'm doing. The only issue is it's just a bit of a, as it is, seems to be every school I've done ever PE or anything. PE sheds, PE shed keys, PE equipment things. It always seems to be in the worst place possible, or nobody's figured out where this is, or that's the wrong place. So that's a discussion for another time in terms of PE in primary schools, how much they do, what they do with it, who gets to deliver the lessons and things like that. I'm very passionate about aspects of that. I think that might be where I go in the future. But yeah, so today is mainly a voiceover, a YouTube video really. I've kind of voiced over the lessons that I taught, both on the one day where I got observed, and then the next day I've showed you kind of what the worksheet and extensions are that I did to kind of rectify or improve on the things that needed to be improved on. And then I've showed you the comments that my ECT mentor gave me as well. So yeah, let's get into it. Right, so let's get into my ECT first proper lesson observation. It was an impromptu maths observation, and as you can see on the screen right now, there's lots of comments on there. I'm going to kind of summarize a lot of them. But just to give you a bit of context, the lesson, the scheme that we're following is White Rose Maths, and the lesson that this lesson was focused on was flexible partitioning to 1,000. So what that means basically is them being able to understand, using the part whole model, that they could, for example, I don't know, 250 could be split up into 100 and 150, for example, rather than what we've been doing the last week or so has been trying to get them to do just singular partitioning, which has been in the hundreds and the tens and the ones, etc. So it is a bit of a different transition, and I think I should have probably realised that the transition was going to be harder than what we thought. But yeah, let's get on to the feedback from my ECT mentor. I mean, the positives, as you can see there, the positives were that good learning objective started. They're starting on whiteboard straight away. Revised the way to set it up on the whiteboards. Revised simple partitioning that we've done before. I used children's whiteboards. So I tried to grab a few different children and show good answers and bad answers, and kind of got the class to kind of judge on what they thought was good and what they thought was bad, so they could really see it from their own work. I think that helped them, and I think that does help more in terms of how I think they're a bit involved a bit more when you do it that way.
Obviously, things to improve on is actually how to do it. A few, when they were setting up their books, some weren't sure what to do. So just need to be making sure that they're ready. Another one was actually how to partition it. So we spoke about it, but actually using things to show them. So 36 is two numbers, is 20, add 16, etc., etc. But I think the main thing that I kind of come from this in terms of a maths perspective is that they need to see it being done more. They need to do it themselves. In terms of they probably need to use the deans, or they need to use drawing or base 10 drawings, or do more simple addition. So yeah, but I could kind of feel that myself during the lesson. I was like, oh yeah, this needs to be changed. And then we'll get onto the behavior aspect of it. But if I show you the other the middle ability, really. I mean, the only difference in terms of what they came out with was actually the higher ability did understand it. They kind of spotted a pattern, especially with A to E. They spotted a pattern that, oh, I need to add 50 to this one. I need to add 1 to this one, then another 101, or etc. etc. So they kind of spotted that regard of it. So yeah, I had a little chat with my mentor. We showed them this the next day and spent a bit longer on how to do things. So we showed them this White Rose Maths. This is the basic one that we've done before, which was two in the hundreds and the tens and the ones. More of this about how to show different ways. So as you can see, it's circling it and it's going through it. This is just the White Rose Maths animations, but I think it was really helpful for them to understand. Oh, that's 100, and then the next one's 130, and what have you got left is a 4. So that's like that. So yeah, so here's just another way of showing, 234, but in partitioned a different way. And again, I think the way that this was used, because I used the White Rose Maths sheet, this is another way that it linked really nicely with their worksheet to what I was showing them. We also did, I think it was in the end, a good 15, 20 minutes on doing it on the whiteboards. They could draw base 10s, and then what we did a lot with, especially with the lower ones, we tried to get them to tick it off as they were doing it. So if we were doing hundreds, say, like for example, this one 210, I would tick that off, and then what have you got left? Oh, okay, I've got 24 left, or whatever it is. So I can split that up into do it in certain ways. So on the next day, we did a similar lesson. We kind of focused on, similar type of things. And here's a quick look at the worksheets that we did for the next day's work, and they really understood it a lot better. The lowers were still struggling, especially on the second question where they had to kind of do their own, even with the example and even with the 4 that they did correctly. But it's something that we need to look at about how to transition. But to be honest, how much we're going to use that, I don't know, because they just need to be able to understand that you can split it 10s, hundreds, ones. We can also split it in different ways. They just need to be able to know that. That's all that matters. And then the middles and the highs did really well with it, to be honest. I think every time I went over to somebody who was in the middles, we kind of showed them the circles and just kind of really evaluated. Just count the circles. What are the circles showing? And then you're able to show that you can split it up in many different ways. A few of them that I went round actually had already figured out other ways of doing it themselves that weren't using the circles. So actually they proved to me that they'd actually understood the concept. They'd actually done it their own way. But I was like, well, actually, I've made it easy for you using the circles. Can you show me that you can do it this way? With the hires, we try to focus on a bit more of kind of a bit more reasoning, as well as can they prove that they can do it themselves from scratch? And most of them did, to be fair.
So just to finish up the YouTube video, we're going to talk about the good and the bad of this week, and then trying to focus on what's happening next week, because there's something very different that's happening next week in my school and what I'm doing actually. We'll get onto that in a second. So there's not really been one big negative, to be fair. I think, as I've mentioned before, behaviour management, classroom management is still something that it's a work in progress. Um, just as as an aside, I had a lovely comment and a bit of a conversation with an old teacher friend that I used to speak to about some different techniques and strategies that I could use. I did mention on my previous videos that, you know, think about using a clap or using some things like that. So I did use a clap. I've used some kind of musical strategies to get their attention. That seems to have worked. I think it's still, and as you might have seen in the ECT mentor comments, from the impression that I'm getting from other people and my own view, I feel like I've got a good nature with the class. Good relationships starting to be built. Obviously, the longer you teach them, the more you get to know them in terms of who needs what, and who can be told what. And I think for me, I just need to keep making sure that my expectations are high, and I'm focusing on that rather than on the lesson, because at the moment, and what's probably been the case since it was becoming an ACT, is that you're so focused on the lesson itself and getting them to learn the objectives that you need to learn and what's the next bit and what's the next thing we're going to say, that actually sometimes you let things slide. You let them, you know, fidgeting or talking behind your back or things like that, where realistically that's actually more important than the lesson itself. You need to get those routines, you need to get those habits in place. So that's something I'm still working on. So it's kind of a good and a bad thing. That's still something I am working on. I gave my first kind of warning 3, which means a child has to go out of the classroom. They go to another class and they have a 5-minute timer and some kind of calm down strategies to do, and then they come back in the class. And I think that helped me a bit, because I was able to go, oh no, I can do this. And I think when I sent this child out, and it wasn't really for anything big. It was just for consistently not listening to instructions, consistently trying to talk to other people. And it kept, just kept escalating. And every time I gave her another warning and went on the behaviour chart, it just didn't change. And then when she came back in, actually, she was smiling a bit. And she seemed a bit cheeky still. So I sent her back out of the classroom and I said, no, come back in a sensible way, please, because you've just sent it in. Because the next step on our level would be go to see the head teacher. And the one after that is talk to parents. And actually, when I said that and she came back in, she did actually, and I just moved her from wherever she was sitting to a different seat, so she wasn't with the same people, and I think that really did help. So that'll be my big goal and big target for next week, is crack on with that, and then hopefully get some ECT training done as well. That can be started next week. But my interesting thing tonight and for the next 2 days will be, there's another ECT teacher in my school. She's in year 5, and currently she's off ill with COVID. So they've asked me, because I do supply on the Monday and Tuesday, could I do supply? Well, they went through my agency, and could I do supply for the year 5 in Monday and Tuesday? So on one hand, it's brilliant because I know the school, I know the routines, I know all the planning and everything like that, know where to get it. Well, I say all the planning, they've sent it all over on emails anyway, but on the other hand, everything and every person I've talked to so far is year 5 class is a bit of a struggle. They are strong characters in there, which is obviously something that I am trying to work on myself. So I'm trying to go in with the fact that, well, it doesn't really matter in terms of I'm not going to get sacked for it because it's not my class. And I'm trying to go in with the mindset that it can only improve me by dealing with a different class, dealing with children I haven't built up a relationship with, and I can try things and just be firmer on the things, and working through that. So that'll be interesting, and we'll see how that goes next week. But hopefully you've all had a good week, and we'll let you know how ECT week 4 and those 2 extra days of supply work really. We'll go and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, have a good week, and we'll see you all next week.